Hey, and welcome back to the Build It Basement. Today we're going to jump right into our build. Start off by looking at the manual a little bit and then get right on the frame. Here we go. So, Voron 2.4R2 build guide. Yeah, bunch of stuff here. So, the guide's very good. We're going to go through it. I'm not going to be following this guide 100%, but we're going to use it for generals. Print guidelines. This is going on exactly how you should printing your parts for your Voron. Talking about ABS, your infill, your layer height, wall count. Some of the non-stressed functional, non-functional parts, you can get away with a little bit less of this, especially with the infills. And just to note, if you are having trouble with ABS and printing your ABS, your infill and your wall count specifically tend to make things kind of curl more. Just because there's more infill, there's more density there, there's more function for it to actually curl up. I'm not saying to print them at any less than these, because those parts do need to be rigid, but there are a few places where you can get away with slightly less infill than that and possibly have parts that will last you just as long. But as a guideline, these are the numbers you want to go with. They also talk about print it forward. If you don't know what print it forward is, this is community of Voron makers that also print parts on their Vorons for other Voron people to make Vorons with. Self-replication. Robots. It's kind of scary if you think about it. Anyways, all right, so file naming, they go over primary color, accent color, quantity required. Primary color has no additional things in front of it. Accent color has an A in front of it for accent, and then quantity required has a number, an X4, X2, X whatever at the end of it to tell you how many of those you need. Then there's Discord. If you want to get into Discord, it's kind of a rolling chat forever, searchable. There are separate channels for different things, such as your tool head versus your printer versus another printer versus vendors versus everything. There's a lot of stuff in there. It can be overwhelming. Let's see here. Reporting issues. If your first build, chances are you're not going to report any issues I haven't heard, but if you do find something, GitHub. If you haven't used GitHub, learn how to use GitHub. All right, so screw types, button head screws, socket head screws, basically they use the initials of the screw type to designate what the screw is. For instance, a button head cap screw is a BHCS, button head cap screw. Socket head cap screw, SHCS. There are a few self-tapping screws in here, some heat set inserts, I call them heat certs, hammerhead nuts, roll nuts, T-slot nut, they call them. Some people call them roll nuts. Hammerhead nuts, some people just call them T-nuts or T-slot nuts. Yeah, but those are the type of things we're using. Your different bearings, good to know the difference between an idler and a pulley. Know what your bearings are. It's all parts you need. A shim versus a washer. What do they say here? Not to confuse with a stamped washer. These are all M5 call locations in the manual. So basically, the reason why you don't confuse them, actually says right here in the washer, spacer is not consistent, washer is not consistent as a shim. That's pretty much what it comes down to. So you get that. Ball end driver, that's so you can get in at low angles if you need to. And then normal hex driver and additional tools. I do suggest you buy a decent set of drivers. Something like these guys, the Wiha brand. Basically Japanese or German tools. They'll last you once you buy them. They're not cheap. I'll have some information in the description below about those, but getting some decent tools, or at least just a few decent hand tools, is very pertinent. Blind joints. So all the frames put together with blind joints, and what a blind joint is basically you cannot see the screw with the exception of the little hole that's drilled into your extrusion to tighten up that screw. It gets rid of any additional failure points. It's basically screw, extrusion, it's hard to say, and then extrusion on the other side where the screw head is basically holding them together. So you have the mechanicals of the screw and the two extrusions touching each other with nothing else interfering. If your extrusions are cut square, this is your most true way of putting this together. And yeah. So there is the frame, and just as another method here, there is the frame in CAD. So what we have basically are the majority of the parts, these 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 parts are all the same. These are your parts that come in with the printer. And then you have 4 stand-ups that are longer. And then you have these 2 additionals here, which are actually the same size as your 8 other. So 10 total for those. There are only extrusions that are in the numbers of 4 and 10. So if you need a little help figuring out which ones those are, the ones you have 10 of are going to be your round and round we goes and your cross members, and the ones that you have 4 of are going to be your uprights. Pretty good, right? Yeah. All right. Oop, there we go. So again, here's your A extrusions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Your B's, which is what we're going to be using today. Then you get your C's, D's, and your E, which are all part of the gantry, your C, D's, and E's. So A's and B's today, guys. Only A's and B's. The first thing they want you to do is prepare your extrusions, and let's jump into that. So here are my A extrusions right here. I also have my 45s right here. They're actually square, so 90, 45. So 45 there, 90 on the inside. Those are going to be the hold down the bed. But what I start off with first is I pre-prep my screws. I use a little Loctite. I prefer this QuickStix. If I can find it on Amazon or something, I'll leave a link in the description. If not, go ahead and use the normal Loctite, or this is Zap, same product. You want the blue stuff, not the red stuff. The red stuff would be very difficult to come apart. Blue stuff should be more enough what you need. So Loctite takes about an hour and a half, 2 hours to solidify. So let's start off by putting our M5x16 button head screws into the ends of these, and this is basically repetition over and over again. So I'm just going to start these by finger tightening them, and I'm working off of actually this is just a tile. I was going to get a piece of cutoff for a countertop, but I ran out of time after the first place wanted to charge me $100 for a cutoff. I guess I can blame that on cost of building goods these days, right? Well, smart, when I had my kitchen put in, I would have kept the one from my sink, but that came here all prepped up, so I didn't really have the opportunity to even ask. So I'm just gonna get these in. One of the good things about using that stick is it's a little bit thicker. It's got about the consistency of a chapstick. So it sticks to the screws. It does make a little bit of a mess over there on my desk, but I can wipe that right up once we're done. So I'm gonna go ahead and use a power tool here. And where we want these is about somewhere between an 1/8 and a 1/4 inch sticking out on each of these. Now don't feel you need to do this with a drill or anything like that. You could do this all by hand. I'm just trying to move things along a little bit faster. This frame's going to go together pretty quick. You'll see those blind joints and how not only how good they are, but how quick they are. In actuality, 2 of these, I apologize for that, should not have screws in them yet. I'm going to set 2 of these aside. See, I was so excited about doing this that I forgot to pull 2 aside. Again, these are the A extrusions. Grab a couple screws out. Okay, you're doing the outsides of these. Get 8 of them, that's correct. I don't know how much of the Loctite really is needed. I mean, this is probably one of the places that your chances of pulling back apart are pretty dang slim on the frame portion of this printer, other than if you've done something completely wrong or something. But you know, you get two dissimilar metals here. You get a very strong, very hard steel versus aluminum. The aluminum, oops, sorry about that. The aluminum should deform a little bit, which you'd think would hold them pretty well, but Loctite can't hurt. All right, there we go. Let's take a look at that screen again. All right, these are A extrusions with our M5x16s. We did 8 of them. 8 of them right here. 2 of them staying aside. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a couple of our A's and one of our B's. 2 A's and a B. And we're going to Lego this thing together. So basically, let me get, what's the best camera for this? Let's do this one right here. So what we're doing is we're making our first blind corner. So what happens is the screw actually goes inside of the extrusion. So extrusion, screw goes inside of it like that. And then that hole right there is where we're going to tighten it up through. So doing this on a relatively flat surface, being this tile here. I did check it on my glass top stove upstairs to make sure it was pretty flat, and it is. So I'm pretty comfortable with that. And I'm going to simply hand tighten these. And when I say hand, I barely mean finger tighten them. Like that. Once I get them pretty tightened, I'm going to grab one of my unused extrusions, or one of the ones we're not using just yet. I'm going to hold it to the side like this, up against the one I'm attaching to the, I'm going to call it a pylon. I'm going up, and I'm going to hold it nice and tight, push it flat against my surface, and then I'm going to tighten up that screw a little bit further. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to hold it all tight and together. Tighten that up a little bit. So at this point, it's holding itself. It's not 100% tight, but it's pretty dang good. All right, back to this. They're going over right here how to assemble the frames. Same stuff I pretty much just told you, using 2 A's and a B, and doing it via a flat surface and using the blind holes that are there. There are these little Voron quick reference QR codes. These will bring you to YouTube, even though they say Voron link, These are actually to Nero's videos for the most part. I believe maybe all of them. So hats off to Nero for having his videos in the manual. He's been doing this a long time and is a great source of wealth of knowledge for anything having to do with these Vorons and specifically these builds. Yeah, so there's that. So now we're going to basically replicate the same thing and then put them both together using additional B extrusions. So let's go ahead and get that going. So I'm going to grab this guy, grab that guy. And as long as they're A's and B's, it doesn't matter which ones they are. They just have to be A's and B's. And like I said, just barely finger tighten them. You want to be able to move everything here until we kind of square it up a little bit better, or get a rough square on at least. Again, I'm going to hold this all together nice and tight. Like that. this one, same thing. One thing you can do is you can take your extrusion and slide it. You should see very little, if any, light through it, and you shouldn't hear it clunk at all when it hits that corner. If it clunks when you hit the corner, it's not flush. Take another one of these and another one of these. And ever so slightly finger tightened. Tightened. We're going with tightened. All right. And like that. Shut down. Yep. And our last B extrusion. Just enough to hold it there. Hold that one there. Pull that together. That. And like so. All right. There's our base frame. No shame there. All right, pretty dang good. All right, so let's get back to this manual, take a look what they're showing us. So we done that. We're good. So now we're gonna put the tops on, and it's pretty much the same as doing the bottoms. Now this is what I would say about that. And actually, let me go back to which screen do I want? I want this one. Yeah, I am going to actually set this on its side. Actually, I think this one's better. Yeah, let me try to push this out a little bit for you. Yeah, like that. Okay, so they show you just put them on in the top. I suggest that you flip your printer over or onto its side and then kind of follow the same procedure that we just did in terms of squaring up these pieces. So I'm going to finger tighten these again. Like I said, barely finger tighten. You want everything to still be relatively movable. And then I'm going to give it a good tweak. Whoa, tweezers. Pretty good. And the same thing over here. Opposite end. I am doing this by hand. Keep in mind that most of these screws that you're going to be doing or using during this build are either going into brass or going into aluminum. You can easily strip out just about any part of this printer that you're putting together. And you definitely don't want to strip out the heads. Like I said earlier, I do suggest you do get a decent set of hand tools. Some hex drivers. And the reason for that is if you strip out a head of one of these screws, you're going to be left with, for the most part, only option will be to drill them out, which is not a fun day. So let me go ahead and open that one up. We already did this one, but might as well confirm it while we're here. Confirm this one. Yep. Get the other side. Very good. grab another A extrusion. And finger tighten that one up. You'll find that during most of this build, nearly everything is repetitive. Some things you do once, most things you do at least twice, some things you do 8 times. So, if for nothing else, you get some practice, right? Okay, so that one, I'm feeling it catch just ever so slightly when I go back and forth. So I'm going to try again. And I'm still getting a little catch there, and I don't know why. I'm gonna try it one more time. Push everything together as best as I can. There we go. All right, good, good, good. All right, last but not least of the A's. Right there. And as you move through this build, or your build, or you decide to do a build, I will say that if you do a little prep as you're building, meaning pre-prep your screws like I just did, or you know, setting out your screws specific to the portion of the project that you're working on, those types of things, it will allow you to not only focus more on what you're actually doing, but will also allow you to move a little bit quicker. This is my third Voron, my second 2.4, and we're good. Yeah. So this was the top, now it's the bottom, that's top. So top, bottom, bottom, top, doesn't matter. Just don't do this. When you're looking at the printer, it should be slightly taller than it is wide. Let's see here. So 19 inches or versus about 18 inches. So yeah, slightly taller than is wide is what you're looking for. If it isn't, then flip your printer over before you go any further than this right here. And speaking of going further than this, let's get back to that screen. All right, so we've got that, we've got that. Now they want us to build these parts, these bottom frame parts that are actually going to be holding the bed once we get to that point. So that's these guys right here, which these are also A extrusions, and that's also where these come into play. And again, having a flat surface to work on is a good thing. Now on these, I did by mistake put these screws in a little bit, so it's gonna hit these real quick with a little bit more of the thread locker. Just make sure I didn't lose too much of it. That one seems fine. This one seems a little bare. There we go. All right. Cheap insurance, right? These are just going to screw on to the end. what I'm going to do is finger tighten these as well. When I say finger tighten, I mean barely finger tightened. You do not want them to be stuck. And then I'm going to take the first one, hold it against it like so, push everything down, hold everything up, there you go. Take number 2, do the same thing we did at number 1. There we go. They're not catching, they're smooth on top, smooth on the bottom, smooth on the sides. This LDO frame, this is the space gray. Surprised Apple didn't patent that name, but I don't know, maybe they did, who knows. Anyways, very nice. And these guys right here, these little 45/90 blocks are usually black, and I've never seen them powder coated to a different color, so making those matching is pretty nice. And on these extrusions, they've actually gone ahead and they powder coated them, we'll say 360 degrees all the way around, and leave a single edge of them not coated, so that's great. Tighten this one up. Same with the other one. Very good. Set these aside for a second. Bring our frame back. Because I know we're gonna need it. All right, let's see here, frame back. So now they want to attach, they want us to attach the, basically the bed holders to the frame. And we're gonna do that using a couple of roll-in M5 T-nuts. So let's get back to this one again. Now these T-nuts are usually, or as far as I know, always offset with the hole on one side versus the other. Sometimes it matters, sometimes it does not. In this particular case, we have lots of room to work with, so it does not matter. But there are other times during the build where you'll find that they need to be facing one direction or another. So be careful with that. I tend to like to keep my nuts in the right direction. Yeah. Just for housekeeping's sake, everything will look nice. So there we go. And these guys are gonna go like that, and like this. And then we got these pre-made up. And what these are pretty much are our M5x10 screws with a shim on them. It's a brass shim with the thread locker already on them for us. And I'm just going to line them up with the T-nuts that are in there. Roll-in nuts. Oop. Okay. And these do not need to be square by any stretch rate at the moment. If I can line that up. There you go. Right now we're just attaching this because we're going to have to do some measuring to make sure these are where we want them. Okay, right like that. Okay, now we have those. We have a bottom view of the printer, and I will say right now that I tend to like to keep my printer in the exact orientation, or even the parts I'm working on, in the exact orientation I see in the manual. However, for this particular step, it does not behoove us to be looking at the bottom of the printer to do this. They're just doing it because it's easier to show people where they want this in conjunction to the actual frame. So they're telling us over here on the right hand side that if we have a 300 millimeter spec printer, the center line would be at 230. Yeah, so 230 to the center line of the printer. And that's where we're going to make a measurement right now. So it's 230 from the outside of the printer, meaning out here, not in here, not in here, out here. And you want to try to be relatively precise with this. So it's 230, and I'm going to slide this thing around. And actually, before I make too much of a mess, I'm gonna clean that up. A little bit of a right. Get this thread locker on everything. Let's see if I can clean it up a little bit. There we go. All right. All right. Let's get that measurement again on this side. Again, we're going for 230 millimeters. I'm holding my ruler at about a 45-degree angle, so I can kind of wedge it in there and get a good, accurate read on where 230 is, which is right there. All right, so now that I know it's 230 from the center, I have that. I know now that I'm also going 130 in between each other, or 65 from edge to edge. So first things first, let's get this to 65. Or as close as possible to 65. This one's a little bit tight. Again, I'm gonna put this at an angle. I'm gonna try to hold it so these stay relatively straight. They don't need to be 100% right yet, but the closer they are to being straight, the less fiddling we'll have to do back and forth. All right, that is, oh, that is pretty close. Right there. And that one is finger tight. So yeah. So now I'm going to go on this far end. I'm going to start this one off. Actually, I'll just go. Let's just do this. Yeah, I'm going to start with my 0 here. I'm going to push this out to 65. Again, I'm trying to keep these relatively square. They're not going to be, but again, close is good when it comes to that. We'll have to possibly go back and forth a little bit. The other thing is too, I want to keep this, the lip of this 45 that comes out pretty flush with the front of the printer. This one's actually pushed back a little bit. I'm going to have to pull that forward. So 65. Right there. Oop, that's odd. Feels like I have a script bottoming out for some reason. I don't know why. That's odd. All right. Sometimes things happen. Maybe that's cut a little deeper than it should be. Let's go down screw size. And solve our problem. As long as we can get 3 or 4 threads on there, which I think we can just fine. What was happening is my screw was bottoming out, and it could have been the part was drilled a little bit too shallow, but something was happening there. So we fix problems. There we go. pretty good. And this guy, like I said, he is a little bit too far back, so I'm going to pull this forward a little bit. Try to keep it pretty flush. Right about there. Now I am putting a mandala bed on this with additional support, so I'm going to grab that real quick. This guy right here. This is for a kinematic bed. What happens is this is going to wind up going in between, so I just want to make sure that that fits just right, and just will hold itself there if I let it be. So we are pretty doggone close. Spin this back around, do the same thing on this side as we did on the first. Or 65. $65, $65. That, and then 1, and then 65 on this one. This one's off a little bit further. Like that. And where'd that go? So, yep, again, it would pretty much hold itself if we allow it to, but still moves free. All right, and the last thing they want us to do is confirm that this is 130 apart from each other. Which I concur. It is. All right. So let's go ahead and tighten those up 100% and look at what we have next, which I think that concludes. Yeah, that pretty much concludes building the frame. But now I want us to make sure that that frame is nice and square. So the best way to make sure something is square is to cross measure. If you have a high grade or at least a decent engineering square, that'd be my first go-to before you do your cross. And if you want to go the extra mile, I got a fair amount of light in here, but if you don't, putting a light behind it will allow you to see if there's any deviation. But this is looking pretty damn good. I can't really do the bottom very well where these parts are, but I also don't want to do it without those on there, because up until the point where you're done working on the frame, anything you add to the frame could change the squareness of the frame. Chances are, if you find something out of whack, you're going to find at least two things out of whack. Again, everything comes in twos. It hangs over the edge. I'm going to start on 1, and I'm getting about 27. I don't like squaring this way, but everybody I'm doing precision stuff like that, it's kind of hard to tell, but 27 3/8. And then do the same thing this way. Start at 1. Yep, 27 3/8. This way. Same. Same. At this point, they should all be the same. And same. And just for good measure, do that one more time. Yep. So you square. You know, sliding around, it's touching everything at once. Yep. Nice. All right. Well, that pretty much ends the frame building portion of it. After this, we're going to be moving on to some Z drives. So that being said, thank you for watching. That's pretty much your frame build in a nutshell, and more videos coming soon, along with some small snippets in between, and I will see you next video.